are encased within what is called the mesosol sphinx. The mesosol sphinx. This is one of the secrets of the great sphinx again. They say it usually fast, so it's a mesosol sphinx. But it's a mesosol sphinx. And this is, again, that broad ligament which is folded around the ovaries. And of course, a female has 2 ovaries. It forms what is known as the bursa ovaticus, or the ovarian sac. The ovarian sac. Now, you have, therefore, male testicular tissue capable of producing spermatozoa in juxtaposition to the female ovary right within the female body. This goes back to the original, what is called hermaphrodite, the universal androgen, or androgynous being having male and female pistil and stigma on the same cluster or stem. This is how the universal man was here. Man, of course, was taken from woman, not woman from man. This is a biblical changeover for a patriarchal society that wanted to rule and wanted to take over. And all you have to do is ask yourself, if women stopped having babies, where would man be? Man cannot reproduce himself other than through cuttings, much as he's doing again now through what is called now clone. But come through the birth canal and be born of a spiritual nature, having a spiritual vestige, you have to then go to a womb man, the man with the womb. Man without womb is a degenerate species, and this is one of the reasons that led to a lot of circumcision and so on like that. I don't want to go further with that part, but just letting you know that that is a major reason for a lot of female problems and a lot of major reasons for the mental problems between males and females, especially when that balance is not taught and people get upset. Those are, again, starting off with a bang, with 2 secret glands that women has. Man has 2 secret glands too, only one of which I will share tonight, and that is what is called his pineal gland. Now, everybody says, well, that's nothing secret about it. You check back in your books at the medical societies and near the colleges and universities, and you'll find that going back in the early 80s, in some cases even middle 80s, they had very little to say about the pineal gland. In fact, they said it's an atrophied gland, ganglia, residue of very little use and has no function. Well, that's like saying your eyes and your ears have no function. You take away those 2 senses and see how you get about or not. So I guess what I'm simply saying is that we've been told a lot of tales. The idea is that in the Great Sphinx, and especially the pyramid, was the secret of male and female. And the secret, of course, of man's secret gland, which is his pineal gland. Because if you notice again, and I'll go to the blackboard later, I want to make it in continuity here. If you remember from last week, when you go up the Grand Gallery, in the entranceway to the Sphinx, there's one level by which you supposedly go to the Queen's Chamber, and then above it, with the peaked roof, 5 planes, the 5 that they say in masonry, the 5 levels, the King's Chamber with the open sepulcher. Well, the sepulcher was never supposed to be containing anybody's body. It was to contain a unit, a electrical magnetic thing, which they call the Ark of the Covenant. Similar to that is what you find in a person's skull. And man, not human, and not mankind, but man, has a reverse hole in the roof of the mouth, which leads up to the nasal passageways. And this is why there's then a big opening, and this is why you can eat something and you see it come through the nose if it goes the wrong way, or if you have eye-ear connection, because all these openings come right in the back and they lead up. You can swallow it. It goes to the ears. It goes to the eyes. All of these are open pathways, or 8 uka. And then, of course, the skull itself is just nothing but an open resonancy chamber, which is what the pyramid is when it functions correctly, a resonancy chamber. All of the sinuses that we have within the skull, these openings, are made to feel vibrations and to feel and sense air. Even the heat and cold, the magnetism and electricity in the air is sensed by these openings. When they stop up, we get asthma, we get sinuses, all these kind of things. And everything we're told to eat stops us up. Everything we're told to drink stops up those passageways. With the male, that opening is supposed to be kept open for except 3 days out of the month. And during that time, there's a secretion. Like a woman has a menses, there's a secretion that comes down that channel that's supposed to drop into the throat and stimulate the body to go to a higher frequency. It usually causes also a male won't want to eat during that time. It's very sensitive during that time. And it is a resonancy that was the same kind of thing that happened within the pyramid. They took away the crystals in the pyramid. They took away the vibrations that used to rush down from the top and down to the bottom to the pyramid beneath the pyramid. In this case, it took away our opening in the top of our heads, which also is where they have what is called the crown chakra, which we'll be talking about, and a little pathway to the pons virile, down to what they call the little Turkish terishka, the little saddle bone there, in which the pituitary gland lies, and it hangs on a little limb-like from the pineal gland. It's almost like a little resonancy, a little clock ticking back and forth. And when this thing begins to vibrate, you begin to get psychic. When this thing begins to vibrate, you begin to send forth energy through what is called the shasharara, or the top crown chakra, and you also begin to energize the EMF field like I demonstrated last week. That's how you can begin to energize that. But also, that also makes a matter of your blood. Your blood changes vibration when that happens, because the blood is manufactured, of course, through the bone marrow and the hemoglobin capability and oxygenating capability. But all of this is controlled through what? The pituitary gland. But where does pituitary, so-called master gland, take its marching orders from? The pineal gland. So this whole thing was kind of shown in the pyramid, because when they took away the capstone of the pyramid, and when they then took away the crystal of the capstone, the pyramid no longer functions. It's a dead thing. That's what made them understand when they talk about the dead Osiris, that this was now a place for the dead. It didn't mean it was a burial place. It meant that the life force it used to give forth is now gone, and it's dead. Most of us are dead. The third eye went out. The little light goes out. And you notice again, if you're on a fast and you're drinking lots of juices and you're breathing deeply, the eyes begin to shine. There's a glow that comes to the skin. You can't miss it. Anybody goes on a fast, you can tell that. Or they clean up their diet. And then when you eat the meats and the pastas, the little light goes out and it gets very dull. You look at an animal, a cat especially, who is very finicky about what they eat. Their eyes shine, and the pupils will dilate and open almost so they look almost like a reptile, because they can work both sides of the fence, because they're very capable. Even the dogs, again, until you give them a lot of food, the little puppies, their eyes shine. They will shine in the dark. That shows they have a soul. That shows that they have an active pineal gland. They have soul force. They have what is called superior continuity. They have the understanding of being able to go to a high vibration. Once we get centered into just the animal plane, that little light goes out. It's dull. Those drug addicts and people who are very obese, their eyes are dull, because all of the glands have been clogged up. All the little resonancy holes in the skull, they're full of asthma and they're full of pneumonia. All the pleurisy, everything is stopped up. And that means the whole vibrational figure 8 of the blood is now a lower vibration. So, I say all of that simply to say that when man understands who he is, he honors that hole in the roof of his mouth, and he honors what he eats, what he doesn't eat. He honors what he thinks and doesn't think. And mainly, when that little hole, as they say, is left open, then the body tries its best to release what is called the golden elixir. Last week we talked about how we brought it up the spine. This is what happens again. Now, there are two ways of doing it. I'm not going to get into the other way, but that is the way it's supposed to be done. But once you do that, the person is very psychic. The person is very open and attuned. And as soon as anything making mucus gets in there, the body reacts to it. I have habits, some people who's that on their case, I spit a lot. And they say, why in the world do you do that? When I learned, when I almost went through a death crisis, that all those things get stopped up. I can feel my psychic power going when if I drink some milk, or I eat some ice cream, or I'll get some bread, or I'll get something that's not supposed to be in there that gets in that little hole. I now can feel it. And the first thing I want to do is discharge it. I don't want it taking away that. Most people, most men, it's all clogged up anyway now. And they get sinus problems when they go to a steam room or they're swimming underwater, and that popping sound, that pressure gets so great, and all this mucus starts blowing out because there's nothing else to release it. They go up in an airplane, and they get up to about 28,000 feet or more. All that pressure from the pressurization forces all that mucus out. For some, it's just like in the stone wall. You don't have to worry about anything being forced out. It just rebounds off it because the clothes, they're cemented tight. But for a person that can lose mucus, you start getting the earache, you start getting the nose, the sinus problem, because it's trying to move that mucus out. That lets you understand the different rates of vibration of our planet. the higher vibrations are as you get away from the central gravity pull toward the sun, and therefore, to go up that way, your skull has to be open. Other than that, that pressure shows you you're not based now for a heavenly existence. You're still down on earth. You can't live up there in the physical body because the body is too clogged up. It's not a resonancy chamber. It can't adjust the frequencies. It's made now to walk the surface of the earth, and that's about it. So this is why you can't take the body with you. The secret in man is that when he opens up that skull, not only can he become psychic, but he can begin to sense himself and to know what to do for his body, because as I showed last week, you can tune to any part of your body if you get quiet with yourself and listen to it. It will tell you what it needs. It will tell you what to do. But if the delivery system is clogged up, you still won't be able to do anything with it. It'll just be there. So, again, man can become God. Human will search for mankind. But it takes man to tell humans and mankind where the Godhead is. They will search the planets for it. It's within themselves. And if not within themselves, then they always feel a lacking. That's why they're very warlike. That's why they're very discovering. This is why they're trying to gain what they never had, not at least on this planet, because this planet is like a test site. It's an experimental laboratory, and everything comes here to learn truth of what they feel is a physical existence or physical plane. So that's your secret of man's secret gland, woman's secret gland. And that leads again then to another concept that I like to kind of go with. We're also told that when a woman is pregnant and delivers again, that the first formed is, after the union of sperm and egg, is formed a zygote on the uterine wall, which attaches, and it goes through supposedly 9 months. And then after that, during that 9 months gestation period, there is a fetus that is brought. The fetus during the first 3 months looks like a tadpole, and then it goes into something else again. And then when it's finally born, a baby, and then of course the baby is almost something that can't do anything up until maybe about the 6th, 7th, 8th month. Usually about the 3rd to the 5th month, the hole at the roof of the skull closes, and then all the senses get more bright, and they say, oh, everything's well. Well, that's a very interesting chronology and very interesting thing to know and not know. First of all original zygotes are females. All original zygotes are females. You'll hear allopathic, I would say mankind say that that's not the truth. Secondly, that the original zygote changes because of not only the production of testosterone, but progesterone, and also how the pineal gland is working through the pituitary gland and the female's thought. Usually you can tell that thoughts were things because the female can mark the child during the first 3 months of pregnancy by then forming birthmarks on the fetus. The fetus is chassis. I like to say the chassis, but you can call it the body, whatever you would. And whatever the female longs for, is afraid of it, so is usually pattern. The cells take on that pattern where she is actually marking with mental consciousness physical matter, which shows mind always controls the physical. That's why we had the mind seated in the body so we could take control of it. But we're not told this, and we think the brain runs the body. If the brain runs the body, what runs the brain? So the point is, it is the soul or mind that is seated in the brain, and these are only little cars and buildings that we live in. Once you understand that, then you honor the mind at the mind straight. And this is where they say thoughts are things, because on this planet, as you think, you've heard that before, so shall you be. With that whole thing, the idea is that the thought form that is to become the child is around you long before it's born and may never get born. It depends upon the circumstances. But that thought form, that soul consciousness, that mind force that wants to get through to you whenever you come into physical existence is still part of you, whether it becomes a fetus or whether it's carried around without being fetal. That force that is around us is the form of energy that is caught up in our energy field, that manifests usually at night in our dreams, and is sometimes when a person even begins to dream in color. Usually when that happens, you begin to dream of a mate coming and all like this, but we'll be getting more of that next week. But the second thing that usually happens there is that when that soul is drawn in and actually becomes part of a zygote formation itself, it carries with it a complete thought. It is a live creature in the elemental kingdom of Earth, and it is the elements that brought it about. Sperm and egg are nothing. Sperm and egg are a catalyzer for elements and subatomic particles and all the energy that they convey. After they're stimulated into growth, then they require more and more of the elements, and the elements crave more and more of the minerals and the vitamins, because now it has to build what is called a corporeal body. It's got to build a physical body from something that is non-physical and for something, but that will best match the vibrations of the donors and the soul that needs to come in. The soul was already communicating, because on this existence here, we've set up lots of interesting interactions. And we'll get more into that next week. But what the philosophy here is, those interactions sometimes will manifest as a physical being to further interact with that person that is now physical, whether it be the mother or the father or both. And that zygote, when being formed, is always just nothing but a group